As I mentioned, friends, I get pretty excited excuse me, when I notice something, when I'm able to pick something out. Some things are a lot easier to notice or to see than others. And when I first came here, there were some things that were just so obvious that I couldn't help but see them. I remember 6 years ago coming here and meeting the staff and being put at ease right away. And so even my first weekend among you, I wasn't nervous like I thought I would be. And that is because one of the first things that I was so aware of and recognized was how easily you share your faith. Not only in coming out to Mass, in the ways that you volunteer in the different ministries and the amazing hospitality that we've always had, but also through those years in the ways that you have allowed me to be a part of your lives, where I have been able to share those tougher moments with you during funerals or illnesses, some of those more challenging or sad times, or those times of great joy too, with baptisms and weddings and different sacraments. So the strength of your faith is so easy to recognize because it's just there. As the gospel says, you shout it with your lives in a very good and positive way. And in doing that, you have also allowed me, you've been very kind to me in allowing me to share some of my faith with you through stories of growing up, through stories of different events of my life, through my interpretation on scriptures. You've just really welcomed that and allowed me to deepen my own faith because not only of your faith, but also of your willingness to listen to me. You've greatly influenced me, and I just appreciate if there's any little way throughout these years that I've had the privilege of influencing you. Also, the vision and mission statement that we have has never been more true of a parish, that where everyone who comes here is welcomed, valued, and enriched. You know how to welcome, and that is so obvious. Like I said, obvious for me personally, but I know when I've met with visitors or friends who have come here, or even with people who have become new parishioners, who have looked at other parishes, the one thing they say is there's something about St. Elizabeth Ann Seton where we just felt welcome. It doesn't mean that people kind of fell all over them in greeting them. They just knew by the smiles, by those greetings at the sign-a-piece, just by the feel in the congregation that this is a welcoming congregation. In fact, even when I was meeting with the personnel board and was informed that this is where I was coming, they used those words. There is something about St. Elizabeth Ann Seton that of all the parishes in Green Bay, this is the parish that would be most open to a non-ordained leader. This is a parish that would be most open to a female leading. They couldn't go into any details. They just said there's something about that parish. And hopefully you feel that too, because that something about this parish is you. So even when I put those welcome cards in the slots on the chairs, nobody said much. And you didn't need to because it already said who you are. I wasn't telling you anything new. Everything on that card is who you are with your lives, who you are with your presence. You know how to welcome. You know that each one of us is that blessed example, that blessed presence of God. And so for all the ways that I've been privileged to feel that welcome, I thank you. You also, it's so obvious, you know that your life is not about you. Through the generosity, not just the financial generosity that you've shared, but again, the generosity of stepping forward with gifts. It seems like any time I asked someone anything, there was always that yes right away. Of course, some people said, "Sister, it's hard to say no to you." I don't know what that was. It was just something about this sister, I guess. I don't know. But your hearts are so big, you know, from collecting the bicycles, from worrying about people throughout the world having fresh water. You reach out to those people in prayer and in generosity, people that you will never know, people whose circumstances you know need to improve, and your hearts are just wide open as you share the gifts that God has given you, knowing that those gifts aren't for you, but those are the gifts that are meant to be shared with others. And so for all the ways that you have shown me and reminded me that the life we have been given is not about us, I thank you. That has been so, so obvious. One parishioner said, you know, when you came, it felt like the possibility of possibilities. That we were, first of all, we're a new parish, we're only 45 years old. We're steeped in that presence of the Second Vatican Council. And so the 45 years have been full of possibilities of knowing that this parish is still in newness, and we celebrate newness often. That possibility of possibilities came again with welcoming a non-ordained leader. We've had a few sacramental ministers, good men throughout the time. And yet you knew that this was how God was working in our lives. This was part of the possibilities that we were going to have. You also have just been so aware of the fact that this is your parish. This is not my parish. It's not Father Bill's parish. This is your parish, and you own that so beautifully that anyone who comes here just feels that great privilege in being able to journey with you. And I have felt that every day, every weekend for 6 years, of what a privilege it has been to be allowed to be part of your parish, to allow to be part of your lives. And as I've talked with the leaders who have come before me, one of the things that has been true of all of them is no one has ever said who is welcome at the table of the Lord and who is not. Because we know that it's the Lord's table, it's the Lord's mission, it's the Lord's parish. You are called to be part of that discipleship. And so in knowing that you would never say who is welcome here and who is not, that the leaders know that as well. And what a privilege it is for us as a parish to have that open table, to know that it's the Lord who calls, it's the Lord who sustains. It's the Lord who heals, who gives comfort and courage. And what a powerful example that has been for me. And what a privilege, again, it has been for me to be a part of that. This goodbye, I was thinking, is fairly emotional because it's a threefold goodbye. It's not only a goodbye to you, who I've been able to be with for 6 years, people that I have come to know and to deeply love. It's also a goodbye to this position that has been such a part of my life and an important part of my life as I've seen the ways that it has increased my faith, the ways that it has pulled gifts out of me that only God knew were there. It's also sad for me in knowing that at least for the short term, there will be no more women in this position. But friends, we know as part of that possibility of possibilities that God opens doors. Our God is never one who closes a door, but God is always one who opens the doors. And so we look forward to the future and to see what that possibility of faith and ministry and presence is going to be. I wish that instead of hearing my words, you could feel what's in my heart. All those words that I wish I could say to you, the thank you that I wish you could hear from me, those words a little more articulate than I ever am, of how much you might know how these last 6 years have influenced me for the better. You've even put up with my singing from time to time, and know why I'm not in the choir. But for 6 years, I have called you friends, and that seriously is how I see you. Jesus Christ himself has reminded us that that is how we view one another, when we are all disciples on the same journey, when we are all doing our best to follow God, when we are doing our best to serve those around us, we can't help but be friends in the life of Jesus the Christ. And so if you'll forgive me one final time, friends, I will remember you, think of you, pray for you, and when another another day is through, I'll still be friends with you. My friends, I will remember you, think of you, pray for you, and when another day is through, I'll still be friends with you. Thank you.